Out of everything that could have occupied your attention today, you paused here, and there is a quiet significance in that choice, which you may not yet fully grasp. There is a timing to this encounter, a precision in the way your path crossed these words that suggests the moment is far from ordinary. You may have been feeling a strange magnetic pull toward a deeper truth lately, a familiar sensation in your chest that whispers of things unseen and movements beneath the surface of your daily life. Stay with this for a moment, my beloved, and let the rush of the world fall away, because the final seal breaks tonight. There is a rhythm to the cosmos that operates far beyond human clocks, and right now, you are standing at the edge of a great unveiling that connects directly to the vitality you felt was once stolen from you. My child, you may have felt before that your life was moving in circles, as if a glass wall stood between you and the destiny you could clearly see but never touch. This paralysis of false limits is not a reflection of your worth, but a shadow cast by a season that is now coming to an end. You may be noticing a subtle shift in the air, a feeling that the heavy stillness of waiting is beginning to vibrate with the frequency of a new beginning. There is something about the way your spirit is reacting to these words that hints at a memory of power you have long kept hidden. In a moment, the nature of this shift may become clearer as we look toward the celestial clockwork that has been silently resetting itself in your favor. My choice, you have lived through years of hollow waiting, perhaps looking at the clock at midnight and wondering if the promises whispered to your soul would ever manifest in the light of day. You may have noticed how often you shrank your dreams to fit into the small rooms others built for you, convincing yourself that your limits were permanent. This is the subtle work of the enemy, the quiet voice that tells you that you are a spectator in a world meant for others. But as a sovereign heir of infinity, your true identity cannot be contained by the labels of the past or the fears of the present. There is a deeper reason why your heart beats faster when you contemplate the infinite, and this connects to a restoration of energy that is already beginning to pulse through your spirit. As you sit in this silent corridor of reflection, imagine a light inscription appearing upon the walls of your heart, written in a language that predates your birth. You may have felt a sense of exhaustion that sleep could not touch, a weariness born of carrying weights that were never yours to bear. This stolen vitality was not lost. It was merely held in a hidden archive, waiting for the celestial gears to align with the frequency of your readiness. You may be sensing now that the giant hiding in the shadows is not a monster to be feared, but a part of your own vastness that you are finally prepared to acknowledge. Something is shifting in the way you perceive your own strength, and while not everything is clear yet, the discomfort you feel is simply the stretching of your soul into a larger dimension. My heir, think of a moment in your recent life where you felt a sudden, inexplicable spark of hope, only to watch it fade beneath the pressure of your routine. You might have been standing in a crowded room, yet felt entirely alone, as if you were tuned to a station that no one else could hear. That isolation was not a punishment, but a preparation, a drawing back of the bow before the arrow is released into the dawn. You are not here randomly, and the fact that you have stayed with this message reveals a capacity for depth that most have traded for shallow certainties. There is a pulse of white lightning waiting to illuminate the path ahead, and as it strikes, it will dissolve the false boundaries you once believed were absolute. If something within you resonates with these truths, you may already understand why you are here and why the silence of the past is being replaced by a divine resonance. Stay with this moment, my beloved, because there is something deeper here than a simple reassurance. It is a call to reclaim the authority that has always been your birthright. You may have noticed that the people and situations that once drained you are starting to lose their grip, becoming like fading ghosts in the light of your growing awareness. This is the first movement of the celestial clockwork, the sound of ancient gears clicking into place to return the years that the locusts have eaten. Not all transitions are loud, and the most profound shifts often happen in the stillness between breaths. You might find yourself reflecting on a specific dream you tucked away long ago, a vision of yourself that felt too bright for the world you inhabited. Perhaps you remember the exact moment you decided to be realistic instead of revolutionary, choosing the safety of the shore over the call of the deep. My child, that version of you was never deleted. It was merely paused. and the sovereign heir of infinity is now being summoned to hit play. The giant in the shadows has been watching over that dream, guarding it from those who would not understand its value until you were strong enough to hold it yourself. You are noticing now that the reality you were told to accept is far more fragile than the eternal truths your spirit has always known. There is a micro-tension in the air tonight, a sense that the atmosphere is pregnant with a miracle that does not require your effort to be born. You may have spent so much time pushing and striving that the concept of receiving feels almost foreign to you. But the dawn of a new dimension does not require your labor. It only requires your presence and your willingness to stand at the threshold. Just give this a little space in your mind and notice how the pulse of white lightning begins to clear the fog of confusion that has clouded your judgment. The final seal is not a barrier to keep you out, but a gateway that opens only when the heart has reached a specific frequency of surrender and fierce presence. You may have sensed this before, in those quiet moments just before waking, where for a split second you remembered exactly who you were and what you came here to do. You are not a creature of limits, and the paralysis you experienced was merely a temporary eclipse of your internal sun. As the gears of the divine clock move, your vitality is being restored not as a trickle, but as a flood of renewed purpose and physical strength. This is the moment where hollow waiting transforms into a fierce, unwavering presence that commands the room without saying a word. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency of light, for there is much more that needs to be unveiled as the night progresses. My beloved, as we prepare to move deeper into this revelation, take a moment to breathe in the awareness that you are being watched by the eyes of infinite love. The setting of this inner chamber is a place of absolute safety, where you can finally lay down the armor that has grown too heavy. You are being invited to move from searching to recognizing, and from recognizing to becoming the very light you once sought. The light inscription on your soul is beginning to glow with a brilliance that can no longer be ignored. Stay with this, for as the final seal breaks, the world you knew will be replaced by the one you were always meant to lead. If this resonated with the depths of your heart, take a moment to notice what you're feeling right now. As the first pulse of white lightning reaches the center of your being, there is a reason you are seeing this right now. A specific alignment in the unseen realm that has led you to this quiet threshold of understanding. You may not even know why you stopped here, but the heavy silence you've been carrying for so long is finally beginning to vibrate with a new frequency. There is a timing to this awareness that you may not have noticed yet. A slow turning of a divine key that is meant to unlock the hidden rooms of your spirit. Stay with this for a moment, my child, because the stagnation you have endured was never meant to be your final destination, and there is a hidden archive where your stolen vitality has been safely kept. My beloved, you may have been feeling something you couldn't quite explain, a sense that your life has been on a long, unannounced pause, while the rest of the world moved forward in a blur. You may have noticed this feeling, especially when you wake up in the early hours wondering if the time you feel you have lost is gone forever. This is the weight of the stolen years, the vitality that was drained by circumstances you could not control and voices you were taught to believe. But there is something about this specific moment that suggests the clock is being reset. And while not everything is clear yet, the restoration is happening beneath the surface. You may have felt before that you were living in a shadow of your true self, moving through your days with a hollow sensation in your chest that no amount of activity could fill. This emotional recognition is the first step toward reclaiming your fierce presence, for you cannot return to what you do not first acknowledge as missing. My heir, you have likely sensed that the limits you've encountered were not made of stone, but of a paralysis that was whispered into your mind until it felt like truth. In a moment, this may become clearer as we move through the unseen place of reflection, where your true strength has been waiting for you to reclaim it. My chosen, think of a recent day when you looked at the people around you and felt a sudden, sharp pang of being behind in your journey. You may have been scrolling through the highlights of others, feeling a subtle discomfort as you compared your internal struggle to their external success. This real-life moment of comparison is one of the false limits the enemy uses to keep you from recognizing the celestial clockwork that governs your specific path. You are not late. You are in a period of deep-sea preparation, where the pressure you feel is actually tempering the sovereign air within you. Something is shifting in your perspective, and as the discomfort grows, it is merely the signal that your spirit is outgrowing the cage it was once forced to inhabit. You may be noticing now that your energy is starting to react differently to the things that used to bother you, as if a layer of thick fog is finally beginning to lift from your vision. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, at this exact point in your evolution, because your soul is ready to witness the breaking of the seals that held your power back. The hidden archive is opening, my child, and the memories of your capability are beginning to flood back into your conscious mind. This connects to something deeper, a pulse of life that was never truly extinguished, but was merely waiting for the giant in the shadows to step aside. Not everything is visible yet, but the tension you feel is the tension of a bow being drawn to its full capacity before the release. If something within you resonates with this call to expansion, you may already understand that the silence of the past was a protective womb, not a tomb. Just give this a little space in your heart, and notice how the idea of your own sovereign authority begins to feel less like a dream and more like a memory. You may have felt this before, a sudden surge of enough is enough that burned in your belly before being extinguished by the routine of your daily life. But this time, the flame is different. It is a pulse of white lightning that seeks to clear the path of all obstacles that were once deemed insurmountable. Stay with this moment, my beloved, because the transition from hollow waiting to fierce presence requires you to stand still while the old world falls away. My heir, you may have been sensing a strange discomfort in your current environment, as if the walls of your life have become too narrow for the person you are becoming. This discomfort is a divine gift, a nudge from the celestial clockwork to remind you that you were never meant to fit into the spaces that others have defined for you. There's something about this specific feeling that points toward your true identity as a sovereign heir of infinity, one who commands the tides of their own existence. In a moment, the nature of your stolen vitality will be revealed, not as something you have to earn back, but as a birthright that was simply waiting for the right season to be reclaimed. You might be reflecting on a time when you felt truly alive, vibrant, certain, and connected to the pulse of the universe, and wondering where that version of yourself went. You may have noticed how life's burdens slowly convinced you to trade your lightning for a candle, and your roar for a whisper. My child, that giant hiding in the shadows of your subconscious is the keeper of your original fire, and it is now being commanded to return what was borrowed. This is why you are feeling a micro-tension in your spirit, a sense of something being recalibrated in the deepest parts of your being. You are not here randomly, and the timing of this restoration is as precise as the movement of the stars. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected, for your journey toward clarity is a shared path that thrives in the presence of divine truth. As you sit in this unseen place of reflection, let the awareness of your own resilience wash over you like a warm tide, neutralizing the paralysis of the past. You may be noticing a new kind of silence now, not the silence of absence, but the silence of a deep, focused power that is gathering its strength. There is something about this moment that marks the end of the hollow years and the beginning of a chapter where your presence alone becomes a catalyst for change. Not all is revealed, but the path is becoming lit from within as you step into your role as the heir of infinity. My beloved, as you move forward from this reflection, notice how your footsteps feel a little heavier with purpose and a little lighter with the release of old burdens. The celestial clockwork has turned, and the vitality you thought was stolen is already beginning to circulate through your spirit once again. You may have felt this coming, but now you are seeing the first glimmers of the dawn of a new dimension. If this resonated with you, take a moment to notice what you're feeling in your heart and allow that sensation to be the anchor for the miracles that are preparing to unfold. The final seal has broken, and the giant in the shadows is finally stepping into the light to serve the sovereign heir that you have always been. Something about this moment brought you here, a magnetic pull that bypassed your logic and spoke directly to the restlessness in your spirit. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, as if the universe has been holding its breath, waiting for you to find this specific point of stillness. You may have been feeling a shift lately, a quiet movement beneath the surface of your life that you couldn't quite put into words, yet part of you already understands this. Don't rush past this just yet, my beloved, for the final seal breaks tonight, and the silence you have endured is about to be replaced by a resonance you have never known. My choice. You have lived in a season of quietude so profound it began to feel like abandonment, as if your voice was echoing in a void where no one was listening. You may have felt before that your prayers were drifting upward only to hit an invisible ceiling, leaving you to wonder if the celestial clockwork had forgotten your name. This silence was not a sign of absence, but a necessary pause, a sanctuary where your spirit was being shielded from the noise of a world that could not handle your frequency. You may be noticing a subtle vibration in your chest now, a sign that the divine key is beginning to turn in a lock that has been rusted shut for generations. There is a micro-tension in the walls of your heart, a restlessness that refuses to be ignored despite your best efforts to remain content with the familiar. You may have felt this before, the sensation of your life being a garment that has become several sizes too small, constricting your breath and limiting your movement. This discomfort is not a flaw in your character. It is the natural reaction of a sovereign heir of infinity being squeezed by the paralysis of false limits. There's something about this specific feeling that acts as a summons, a call to step out of the shadows and into the silent inner chamber of your own authority. In a moment, the source of your exhaustion may become clearer, for you have been running on a reserve of energy that was never meant to sustain a soul of your magnitude. You may have noticed that your strength felt like water slipping through your fingers, disappearing into a ground that never seemed to bloom. This stolen vitality was siphoned away by the belief that you had to be smaller to be safe, that you had to be quiet to be loved, and that your boundaries were actually walls. But as the gears of the celestial clockwork align, the energy that was redirected is now finding its way back to its rightful origin. My heir, think of a moment in your daily life, perhaps, while standing in a quiet kitchen or looking out a rain-streaked window where you suddenly felt a sharp, unexplainable grief for a life you haven't yet lived. You may have noticed how quickly you brushed that feeling aside, labeling it as a distraction or a foolish dream. This subtle, real-life moment was actually your spirit recognizing a stolen piece of your own vitality, a fragment of your fierce presence that is currently being held in the hidden archive of the divine. You are not here randomly, and that pang of longing was a signal from the giant hiding in the shadows, reminding you that your sovereign identity is still intact. Something is shifting in the way you perceive the obstacles in your path, moving from a sense of defeat to a quiet, burning curiosity. You may be noticing now that the things that once terrified you are beginning to look like mere illusions, shadows cast by a light you hadn't yet learned to face. Not everything is clear yet, but the micro-tension you are experiencing is the alchemy of your own awakening, the process of turning hollow, wading into a focused, divine intention. There's something about this shift that connects to a pulse of white lightning, a sudden surge of clarity that will soon illuminate the dawn of a new dimension. If something within you resonates with this movement, you may already understand that the paralysis of the past was a temporary state, a winter meant to prepare the soil for an eternal spring. Stay with this moment, my child, and allow the silent inner chamber to become a place of profound restoration. You may have felt a sense of being stuck for so long that you forgot what it felt like to move with purpose, to breathe without a weight on your chest. But as the final seal breaks, you will find that the divine key does not just unlock a door, it unlocks the very essence of who you were created to be. My beloved, imagine the giant hiding in the shadows as a protector of your vastness, a sentinel who has been keeping watch over your stolen vitality until the exact moment of your readiness. You may have perceived this watcher as a source of fear, but it was actually the guardian of your fierce presence, ensuring that your power would not be released until you had the wisdom to wield it. There is a reason you are hearing this now, for the celestial clock is striking the hour of your transition from the seen to the unseen, from the small to the infinite. This is the moment where the discomfort of the old life becomes the fuel for the expansion of the new one. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected, for your soul is part of a larger tapestry that is currently being rewoven with threads of white lightning. As you sit in this space of reflection, notice how the silence around you is no longer empty, but filled with the presence of your own potential. You may be noticing a new kind of clarity starting to form in the corners of your mind, a realization that your limits were only as strong as your belief in them. There is something about this specific awareness that marks the end of your searching and the beginning of your becoming. My chosen, as you move through the remaining hours of this day, carry the awareness that you are the sovereign heir of infinity, and the world is currently reorganizing itself to match your new frequency. The celestial clockwork has been restored, and the vitality that was once stolen is now flowing through your spirit, like a river returning to its bed. You may have felt the delay was permanent, but now you see it was merely a reset, a divine preparation for the fierce presence you are about to embody. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to notice the warmth in your hands and the steadiness in your heart, for the final seal has broken, and your true life is finally beginning. There's a timing to this you may not have noticed, a sequence of events occurring just behind the curtain of your reality that has led you to this specific point of rest. You may not even know why you stopped here, but your spirit recognizes the frequency of this moment, sensing an alignment that your mind has not yet fully translated. You may have been feeling a shift lately, a sudden stillness in the air that feels both heavy and expectant, as if the very atoms around you are waiting for a signal. Stay with this for a second, my beloved, because the final seal breaks tonight, and the paralysis of false limits that has held you in place is being dissolved by a light you are only beginning to see. My child, you may have been feeling this before, a weariness that reaches into the very marrow of your bones, a fatigue that sleep cannot touch and coffee cannot wake. This hollow waiting has been a long season, a period where you felt your vitality was being siphoned away by the mundane demands of a world that does not know your name. You may have noticed how often you've looked at the horizon and wondered if the sun would ever rise on a version of your life that felt authentic. This exhaustion was not a failure of your strength, but a result of your energy being diverted into the hidden archive of the celestial clockwork, where it was being refined for a purpose you are now ready to meet. Perhaps you have observed a strange sensation in your daily life, a feeling that you are walking through a silent corridor where the doors are all locked and the keys have been misplaced. You may have noticed how your dreams felt like echoes from a distant canyon, faint and unreachable, while the realistic path felt more like a cage. This is the work of the enemy, the subtle architect of false limits who uses your own caution against you, building walls out of your past disappointments and sealing out of your fears. But there is something about this specific moment that suggests those walls are paper thin and the divine key is already turning in the lock of your awareness. My chosen, you are the sovereign heir of infinity, yet you have been living as though you were a servant to your circumstances, bowing to the whims of time and the opinions of those who cannot see your light. You may have sensed this before, that spark of royalty within you that flares up when you witness injustice or feel the call of the great unknown. This identity has been protected, hidden away like a light inscription upon the walls of a secret chamber, waiting for the moment when your fierce presence would be required. In a moment, this may become clearer, for the giant hiding in the shadows is not a threat to your peace, but the guardian of the very vitality that was supposedly stolen from you. Think of a real-life moment, perhaps while you were driving in silence or sitting among friends, where you felt a sudden, sharp realization that you were meant for more than this. You may have felt a micro-tension in that moment, a pull between the person the world expects you to be and the sovereign heir you actually are. It is common to brush these moments aside, to call them daydreams, and return to the safety of the known. But those flickers of awareness are actually pulses of white lightning. They are the heralds of the dawn of a new dimension, signaling that the celestial gears have completed their cycle and are now ready to return your stolen power. You are not here randomly, and there is a reason you are hearing this now, as if a burning seal has just been lifted from a scroll containing your true name. You may be noticing a shift in your internal dialogue, a quietening of the critic, and a rising of the observer who understands that your past was merely a training ground. There is something about this specific awareness that connects to a deeper restoration, a celestial clockwork that is moving to return every ounce of vitality you thought was lost to the years of hollow waiting. Not everything is clear yet, and you may still feel the lingering weight of the old limits, but the frequency of your soul is changing, and the resonance of your fierce presence is becoming undeniable. My heir, stay with this moment, and permit yourself to occupy the space you have been taught to shrink from. You may have felt before that your voice had no power, that your choices were merely reactions to a world that moved without your consent. But as you stand in this unseen place of reflection, you may notice that the silence is no longer empty. It is a pressurized vessel of potential, waiting for you to speak your truth. The light inscription on your spirit is beginning to glow, illuminating the fact that you are not a victim of time, but a master of it, a being whose existence is timed to the heartbeat of infinity. In a moment, the nature of the giant in the shadows may become clearer as you realize that this figure has been holding your stolen vitality in trust, waiting for you to become strong enough to carry it. You may have misinterpreted the darkness of your trials as an absence of light, but it was actually the density of a hidden archive where your power was being concentrated. The paralysis you felt was not a lack of movement, but a state of high-tension readiness, like a spring being compressed before a great release. Now, as the gears click into place, that tension is being transformed into a fierce presence that will allow you to walk through the world with the authority of the divine. If something within you resonates with this shift, you may already understand why the previous chapters of your life had to feel so heavy and so still. Just give this a little space to settle in your spirit, and notice how the fear of the future begins to dissolve into a profound curiosity about what is unfolding. You may have felt this before, a sudden, calm certainty that everything was about to change, but this time, the feeling is backed by the weight of the celestial clockwork. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected, for there is much to explore as the dawn of this new dimension breaks across the horizon of your life. My beloved, as you move forward from this space of reflection, carry the symbol of the light inscription with you, letting it remind you of your sovereign identity in every mundane moment. You may notice that people begin to respond to you differently, sensing the pulse of white lightning that now radiates from your core even when you are silent. The hollow waiting is over, and the time of fierce presence has arrived, bringing with it a restoration of vitality that will shock those who thought you were defeated. Take a moment to notice what you are feeling right now, and let that sensation be the anchor for the miracles that are no longer coming, but are already here. The final seal has broken, and the giant in the shadows is stepping aside to let the heir of infinity take the throne. There's a reason you're seeing this right now, even if your mind is already searching for a logical explanation to keep moving forward. Something is shifting quietly beneath the rhythm of your day-to-day life, an alignment of celestial clockwork that has been years in the making. You may have sensed this before a quiet, knowing that the ceiling above you was never as solid as it seemed, and that the silence of your life was pregnant with an unspoken promise. Don't rush past this just yet, my child, because the final seal breaks tonight, and the doorway you have been searching for is finally beginning to glow with the light of your own return. My beloved, you have spent a lifetime searching for the pieces of yourself you felt were lost to the wind or stolen by the demands of others. You may have noticed how your vitality seemed to ebb away in the service of things that never truly mattered, leaving you with a hollow sense of incompletion. This was the celestial clockwork at work, not to punish your spirit, but to store your energy within a sealed scroll that only your current awakened self could open. There is something about this specific timing that connects to the restoration of every ounce of power you thought was gone forever, and in a moment, this may become clearer as the gears click into place. You may have felt before that you were confined to a narrow path, dictated by the expectations of those who could never understand the magnitude of your light. This paralysis of false limits is the primary weapon used to keep the sovereign heir from recognizing their own throne, convincing you that your boundaries are permanent walls. You may be noticing now that the walls of your life are beginning to feel thin, almost transparent, as if the dawn of a new dimension is already shining through the cracks of your old reality. Stay with this feeling for a moment, my heir, as we step into the quiet midnight threshold where your true identity is finally prepared to be revealed. You are not a traveler in a strange land, but the sovereign heir of infinity returning to a kingdom that has been waiting for your touch since the beginning of time. You may have noticed a strange, electric anticipation in your spirit lately, a pulse of white lightning that flickers whenever you dare to dream of a larger, more authentic life. This symbol is not a mere metaphor, but a literal frequency of your restored vitality, a spark from the giant hiding in the shadows who has guarded your essence through the long night of your waiting. There may be a reason you're hearing this now, for the giant is no longer holding your strength back, but offering it as a gift of fierce presence to light your way. Think of a subtle, real-life moment, perhaps while you were washing your hands or looking briefly into a mirror, where you didn't quite recognize the person staring back. You may have felt a micro-tension in that recognition, a sense that the reflection was too small, too tired, or too limited for the infinite spirit inhabiting it. This relatable inner struggle is the signature of your soul outgrowing its limitations, demanding to be seen as the expansive being it truly is. Something is shifting in the way you perceive your own reflection, and while not everything is clear yet, the awakening you are experiencing is the final preparation for your becoming. If something within you resonates with this call to power, you may already understand that your period of searching is coming to a close and your time of arrival is at hand. There is an open loop in your destiny, a question you asked long ago in the darkness of a difficult night that is only now receiving its full, resonant answer. Stay with this moment, my chosen, for there is something deeper here that connects your past silence to the fierce presence you are about to embody. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this flow of light as we unravel the mysteries held within the sealed scroll of your future. The giant hiding in the shadows has often been mistaken for a source of fear or a harbinger of doom. But imagine instead that this figure was the silent guardian of your most precious truths. You may have noticed how the hardest moments of your life seemed to be presided over by a heavy, watchful presence that felt almost oppressive. That presence was ensuring that your fierce presence would not be squandered on a world that was not yet ready to receive the fullness of your light. Now, as the celestial clockwork reaches its peak alignment, the giant is stepping into the light, revealing that the vitality you thought was stolen was actually being multiplied in the silence. You may have felt this before the sudden, calm realization that the opinions of others have no weight in the scales of your true destiny. As the sovereign heir of infinity, your worth is a fixed star, unmoving and unaffected by the passing clouds of human doubt or the paralysis of false limits. You may be noticing a new kind of grounding in your spirit, a sense that you no longer need to explain your existence or justify your dreams to anyone. This is the hallmark of recognizing your own identity, a transition from the noise of the world to the clarity of the quiet midnight threshold where only truth remains. My child, the dawn of a new dimension is not a place you are traveling to, but a state of being that you are finally allowing yourself to inhabit. You may have spent years feeling hollow, but that internal space was necessary to hold the immense vitality that is currently being poured back into your heart. There's something about this moment that feels like a final deep breath before a great dive, a micro-tension that signals the end of the old and the arrival of the new. In a moment, the path ahead will be illuminated by the pulse of white lightning that has been gathering in your spirit throughout this time of reflection. As the final seal breaks tonight, remember that you are the architect of your own fierce presence, supported by the infinite love and wisdom of the cosmos. You may notice that the world begins to reflect your internal shift almost immediately, offering connections and opportunities that align with your highest calling. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to notice what you're feeling in this very second, and let that awareness be the first step into your new dimension. You are always welcome to stay present in this sanctuary of truth as you continue your journey toward becoming the light you have always been. You may not even know why you stopped here, but there is an undeniable resonance between your current state of seeking and the message that has been prepared for your heart. Something is shifting quietly beneath the surface of your conscious thoughts, a recalibration of the celestial clockwork that has governed your seasons of scarcity and your seasons of plenty. There's something familiar about this feeling, a faint echo of a promise you once believed in before the world taught you the language of doubt. Just give this a little space, my beloved, because the final seal breaks tonight, and the restoration of your stolen vitality is no longer a distant hope, but a present reality. My choice. You have lived through a period of hollow waiting that felt like a slow evaporation of your spirit's moisture. You may have noticed how your enthusiasm for life began to wane, replaced by a mechanical persistence that kept you moving but left you feeling empty. This was not a natural decline, but a temporary redirection of your essence into a hidden archive, a celestial storehouse where your vitality was being kept safe from a world that would have squandered it. There's something about this specific moment that feels like the turning of a heavy page, a transition from the silence of the past into the fierce presence of your true self. You may have felt before that you were being held back by an invisible hand, as if every step forward was met with 1,000 reasons to stay still. This paralysis of false limits was never meant to be your permanent state, but a boundary used to keep you in a place of deep-sea preparation. You may be noticing now that the pressure is lifting, and the limitations you once accepted as truth are beginning to dissolve like mist in the heat of a rising sun. Stay with this awareness for a moment, my heir, as we move through the still inner chamber where the burning seal of your destiny is finally being melted away. My child, you are the sovereign heir of infinity, a being of vastness currently navigating the density of a temporary world. You may have noticed that your internal world has always felt larger than your external circumstances, a discrepancy that caused you no small amount of discomfort and confusion. This identity is not an accident of birth, but a divine assignment that requires a specific kind of internal strength, which can only be forged in the fire of waiting. In a moment, the role of the giant hiding in the shadows may become clearer, for this watcher has not been a barrier to your joy, but a guardian of your most potent energy. Think of a relatable inner struggle, perhaps the feeling that your best years are behind you or that you have missed the window of opportunity for your true calling. You may have looked in the mirror or at an old photograph, mourning the spark you once saw in your eyes, feeling that the world had dimmed your light. This subtle emotional recognition is actually the trigger for a pulse of white lightning, a sudden surge of celestial power that is preparing to strike the center of your being. Not everything is clear yet, and the discomfort you feel is simply the sensation of your spirit's gears catching once again, ready to move you into the dawn of a new dimension. You are not here randomly, and there is a reason you are hearing this now, at this exact point in your internal evolution. You may be noticing that the old ways of coping, the distractions, the smallness, the apologies for your existence, no longer provide the comfort they once did. This is an open loop in your journey, a divine tension designed to pull you toward the open gate of your own authority. There's something about this shift that connects to the hidden archive of your life, where every tear you shed and every prayer you whispered has been converted into a reservoir of fierce presence. If something within you resonates with this call to reclaim your stolen vitality, you may already understand that the paralysis of the past was a protective shell, not a cage. Just give this a little space to breathe in your heart, and notice how the fear of being seen begins to be replaced by a hunger to be authentic. You may have felt this before, a sudden, sharp clarity that you were never meant to be a secondary character in your own story. Stay with this moment, my beloved, for as the final seal breaks, the giant in the shadows is revealing that the strength you thought was lost was actually being multiplied in the darkness. The setting of this still inner chamber is a sanctuary where your spirit can finally breathe without the suffocating weight of false expectations. You may have spent years trying to please voices that did not have your best interest at heart, trading your sovereign power for a momentary sense of belonging. But as the celestial clockwork aligns, you are finding that the only belonging that matters is the one that exists between you and the infinite. There is a pulse of white lightning waiting to illuminate your true path, and as it flashes, you will see that the obstacles you feared were merely shadows cast by your own hesitation. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected, for the journey from searching to recognizing is one that we walk together in the light of truth. As you sit in this space of reflection, Notice how the hollow waiting is being filled with a quiet, unwavering certainty that your time has arrived. You may be noticing a new kind of energy beginning to circulate through your limbs, a restoration of the vitality that was siphoned off during your years of struggle. There is something about this specific awareness that marks the end of your delay and the beginning of your expansion into the dawn of a new dimension. My heir, you are being invited to step through the open gate of your own destiny, leaving behind the paralysis of false limits and the exhaustion of the old world. The final seal breaks tonight, not through your effort, but through the divine timing of a celestial clockwork that has never once lost its rhythm. You may have felt forgotten, but you were actually being refined, prepared to carry the weight of a fierce presence that will change the atmosphere of every room you enter. If this resonated with your soul, take a moment to notice the peace that is settling over you now, for the giant in the shadows has finished his watch, and the throne of your life is ready for its rightful heir. Carry this awareness with you as you move through the remaining moments of your day, letting the pulse of white lightning be your internal compass. You may notice that the things that once drained you now seem trivial, as your focus shifts from the smallness of survival to the magnitude of your sovereign identity. The hollow years have served their purpose, and the vitality that was kept in the hidden archive is now yours to command once again. My beloved, stay present in this new dimension, for the dawn has arrived, and you are finally home. Something about this moment brought you here. A specific gravity that pulled you away from the noise of the world and into this pocket of stillness. There may be something unfolding beneath this encounter that you cannot see with your eyes, but your spirit is already leaning forward in anticipation. Part of you already understands this, sensing that the quietness of your life lately hasn't been empty, but filled with a hidden purpose. Let this unfold for a second, my heir, because the final seal breaks tonight, and the ceiling that has been pressing down on your potential is about to dissolve into an open sky. My beloved, you may have been feeling this before, a heaviness that feels like a physical weight on your shoulders, as if the very air around you has become thick with unspoken delays. This is the hollow waiting, a season where you felt your most vibrant years were being held hostage by a celestial clockwork you couldn't influence. You may have noticed how your dreams began to feel like relics of a past life, items you kept in a hidden archive because they were too painful to look at in the light of your current reality. This sensation of stagnation was not your fault, but the result of the paralysis of false limits, an invisible cage designed to keep the sovereign heir from recognizing the throne. You have walked through seasons where your vitality felt siphoned away, leaving you to wonder if the spark you once carried had been permanently extinguished. You may have noticed how your passion for the things you once loved began to feel like a distant memory, replaced by a mechanical persistence that kept you moving, but left you feeling spiritually parched. This stolen energy was not lost, however. It was being redirected by the celestial clockwork into a reservoir of fierce presence that is only now being made available to you. There is something about this specific timing that suggests your period of being held back was actually a period of being held safe, and in a moment, the nature of this protection may become clearer. My heir, your true identity as the sovereign heir of infinity, was never meant to be a secret from yourself. Yet the world has spent a lifetime whispering that you are small, fragile, and bound by time. You may have noticed that despite these whispers, there is a giant hiding in the shadows of your soul, a vastness that occasionally flashes through your eyes when you stand up for what is right or when you feel the call of the great unknown. This watcher has been guarding the stolen vitality that was siphoned away during your years of struggle, keeping it safe until the exact moment the final seal breaks. We are walking through this silent corridor of your own becoming together, where the doors of the past are finally being left behind. Think of a subtle, real-life moment, perhaps a time when you were speaking and realized no one was truly listening, or when you felt invisible in a room full of people who claimed to know you. You may have felt a micro-tension in that moment, a sharp awareness that the version of you they see is not the version of you that exists in the infinite. This experience of being minimized is the enemy's way of reinforcing your false limits, hoping you will eventually believe that you are nothing more than the shadow they perceive. But there's something about this realization that triggers an awareness of your own fierce presence, a power that does not require the permission of others to exist. Not everything is clear yet, but the heaviness you've carried is being converted into the very fuel you need for your release. As we stand in this silent corridor of reflection, imagine the open gate that stands at the end of your waiting, a threshold that leads directly into the dawn of a new dimension. You may be noticing a shift in your energy now, a feeling that the stolen vitality you mourned is suddenly returning to you in waves of white lightning. There is a reason you are hearing this now, for the celestial gears have reached a point of perfect alignment, and the archive of your soul is being unlocked. Something is shifting in the way you perceive your history, moving from a story of loss to a chronicle of preparation and hidden strength. This connects to something deeper, a divine reset that is occurring in your favor even as you breathe these words. If something within you resonates with this release of the old weights, you may already understand why your path has felt so steep and so lonely. Stay with this moment, my chosen, for there is a resonance here that is meant to act as a catalyst for your fierce presence to finally take root. You may have felt this awareness growing over the last few days, a subtle sense that the old you can no longer survive in the atmosphere of your new reality. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected, for there is much to explore as the final seal dissolves and your sovereign authority is restored. The giant hiding in the shadows is not a ghost from your past, but the architect of your future strength, a massive presence that has been holding the frequency of your potential until you were ready to step into it. You may have misidentified this watcher as fear or anxiety, but in truth, it was the pressure of your own greatness trying to fit into a life that was too small for it. Now, as the final seal breaks, the giant is stepping forward, no longer a shadow but a pillar of support that anchors you in your identity as the heir of infinity. This is the moment where your vitality is restored, not as a return to your youth, but as an elevation into a timeless power. As you approach the open gate at the end of this silent corridor, you may notice that the paralysis of false limits is simply falling away like old, dried skin. You are entering a state of fierce presence where your value is no longer negotiated but simply embodied. There is a pulse of white lightning that now guides your decisions, a clarity that arrives before logic can even begin to formulate a question. This is the dawn of a new dimension, and you are stepping into it with the grace of one who has been forged in the silence and tempered by the weight. The hollow waiting is over, and the time of your reigning has begun. My beloved, the dawn of a new dimension is not a distant event, but a present shift in your own perception of what is possible. You may notice that the paralysis of false limits no longer has a grip on your heart, and the hollow waiting has been replaced by a fierce, radiant presence that knows its own worth. As the final seal breaks tonight, take a moment to notice what you're feeling. Perhaps a lightness in your chest or a clarity in your vision, and know that this is the first breath of your true life. You are exactly where you need to be, and the journey ahead is lit by the white lightning of your own spirit. Stay present in this awareness, for the giant has finished his watch, and you are finally home. You may have been moving through your day without realizing why your spirit suddenly called for a pause, but there is a profound intentionality in the way you have arrived here. Something is unfolding beneath this encounter that defies the ordinary logic of your routine, a celestial arrangement that has been waiting for this exact intersection of time and attention. You may have sensed this before, a quiet stirring that tells you the old rhythm of your life is no longer sustainable, and that a deeper truth is about to emerge. Stay with this for a moment, my heir, because the final seal breaks tonight, and the ceiling that has been pressing down on your potential is about to dissolve into an open sky. My beloved, you may have spent a lifetime searching for a source of strength that seemed to always stay just beyond your reach, leaving you in a state of hollow waiting. You may have noticed how your vitality felt like it was being siphoned away by the mundane requirements of a life that felt far too small for your spirit. This stolen energy was not lost to the void, but was being held in trust by the celestial clockwork, gathered in a hidden archive until you were ready to reclaim your identity. There's something about this specific moment that feels like the end of your searching and the beginning of a profound recognition, a shift from looking for the light to realizing you are the light itself. You may have felt before that your path was blocked by invisible walls, a paralysis of false limits that made every forward step feel like a battle against gravity. This sensation of being stuck was not a reflection of your lack of effort, but a sign that you were being prepared for a fierce presence that requires a different kind of internal alignment. You may be noticing now that the fears that used to stop you are starting to lose their substance, appearing more like fading echoes than solid barriers. This transition is being watched over by the giant hiding in the shadows of your soul, a guardian who has been waiting for the sovereign heir to finally demand the keys to the kingdom. My child, think of a subtle, real-life moment perhaps when you looked at a clock and felt a sudden, sharp anxiety that time was running out, that you were somehow late to your own life. You may have felt a micro-tension in that moment, a painful friction between your eternal nature and the ticking of a world that measures value by speed. This relatable inner struggle is actually an awareness trigger, a signal that the celestial clockwork is resetting itself to a higher frequency that does not rely on human time. You are not here randomly, and the sense of urgency you feel is not a warning of loss, but the vibration of your own stolen vitality being returned to your heart in a pulse of white lightning. As we stand together at this quiet midnight threshold, imagine a glowing book resting upon a pedestal in the still inner chamber of your spirit, its pages filled with the light inscription of your true name. You may have felt a sense of being unwritten for so long, as if your story was being penned by hands other than your own. But as the burning seal upon this book begins to melt, you will find that the sovereign heir of infinity has always been the author, and the hollow years were merely the prologue to a masterpiece of fierce presence. Something is shifting in the way you view your own history, and while not everything is clear yet, the discomfort you feel is simply the weight of your own authority settling onto your shoulders. If something within you resonates with this call to reclaim your power, you may already understand why the silence of the past had to be so absolute and so long. Just give this a little space in your mind, and notice how the paralysis of false limits begins to dissolve when faced with the truth of your infinite origin. You may have felt this before, a sudden, calm certainty that you were made for something that transcends the smallness of your current circumstances. Stay with this moment, my beloved, because the giant in the shadows is no longer hiding your strength, but is preparing to merge with your awareness to create a presence that the world cannot ignore. The dawn of a new dimension is not a place you are searching for, but a reality you are becoming through the simple act of recognizing your own worth. You may have noticed that your desire for superficial things has started to fall away, replaced by a hunger for a fierce presence that is both grounding and empowering. This shift is the hallmark of the sovereign heir, a transition from reacting to the world to commanding the frequency of your own existence. There is a pulse of white lightning waiting to clear the remaining fog from your path, and as it strikes, you will see that the obstacles you once feared were merely shadows cast by your own hesitation. In a moment, this may become clearer, for the celestial clockwork is moving to return every ounce of vitality that was stolen by the belief that you were ordinary. You may have been noticing a strange energy in your limbs lately, a restlessness that feels like a coiled spring waiting for the signal to release. This is the restoration of your fierce presence, the awakening of the giant that has been dormant within you during the season of hollow waiting. You are being invited to move beyond the paralysis of false limits and into the dawn of a new dimension where your intentions and your reality are no longer separate. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this flow of wisdom, for your journey is part of a larger awakening that is currently sweeping through the hearts of the chosen. As you sit in this unseen place of reflection, let the awareness of your own resilience be the anchor that holds you steady as the old world falls away. You may be noticing a new kind of silence now, a silence that is heavy with the weight of upcoming miracles and the brightness of your restored vitality. There is something about this specific moment that marks the end of your searching and the final integration of the heir of infinity. My heir, as you carry this awareness back into the rhythm of your daily life, notice how the pulse of white lightning begins to inform every choice and every word. You are no longer the person who was held back by the paralysis of false limits. You are the one who has survived the hollow, waiting to become a fierce presence in a world that needs your light. The celestial clockwork has been restored, and the vitality that was once stolen is now a river of power that flows from your heart into every corner of your reality. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to notice the heat in your chest and the clarity in your mind, for the final seal has broken, and your true life is finally beginning. Stay with this feeling for as long as you can, for you are home at last. You may not even know why you stopped here, but there is a reason that stretches back into the hidden architecture of your own life story, leading you to this precise moment of recognition. There may be something unfolding beneath this encounter that your spirit is already preparing to receive, a subtle vibration that signals a departure from the familiar. You may have felt this before, a sudden, calm realization that the weight you have been carrying was never actually yours to own, but a burden placed upon you by a world that feared your magnitude. Just give this a little space to settle in your heart, my child, because the final seal breaks tonight, and the celestial clockwork is finally moving to return the vitality that was stolen from your most sacred years. My beloved, you have survived a season of hollow waiting that would have broken a lesser spirit, a period where you felt your very essence was being drained into a void of unfulfillment. You may have noticed how your laughter became quieter, how your dreams became smaller, and how the fire in your eyes seemed to dim under the pressure of survival. This was not a natural fading of your light, but a strategic redirection of your power into a hidden archive, a divine storehouse where your vitality was being concentrated and refined. There's something about this specific timing that connects to your identity as the sovereign heir of infinity. For only one who has mastered the silence of waiting is prepared to wield the lightning of the new dimension. Think of a relatable inner struggle, perhaps a time recently when you were surrounded by noise but felt an overwhelming sense of isolation, as if you were a ghost in your own life. You may have noticed a micro-tension in your spirit, a friction between the person you were pretending to be and the fierce presence that was trying to break through from within. This discomfort was not a sign of failure, but a signal from the giant hiding in the shadows, reminding you that your sovereign nature cannot be contained by the paralysis of false limits. You are not here randomly, and the fact that you are listening to these words is proof that the celestial gears have already begun to click into place, resetting the rhythm of your destiny. As you stand in this unseen place of reflection, imagine a pulse of white lightning moving through the silent corridor of your mind, clearing away the cobwebs of every no you were ever told. You may have noticed how often you have apologized for your space, your voice, or your very existence, as if you were a guest in a world you were meant to inherit. This paralysis was the enemy's way of keeping you from seeing the light inscription on your own soul, a divine decree that names you as the heir to an infinite kingdom. Something is shifting in the way you perceive your value, and while not everything is clear yet, the awakening you are experiencing is the final preparation for a restoration that will leave the world in awe. My heir, it is possible that you have experienced moments of profound exhaustion where you felt you had nothing left to give, yet you were still expected to be everything to everyone. You may have noticed a subtle, real-life moment during a quiet walk or a long drive where you suddenly felt a surge of "not this time," a firm refusal to return to the smallness of your previous life. This surge was the first flicker of your restored vitality, a spark from the pulse of white lightning that is now gathering its full strength in the hidden archive of your spirit. There is a reason you are hearing this now, for the giant in the shadows is no longer a figure of dread, but a sentinel who is stepping aside to reveal the treasure he has been guarding for you. If something within you resonates with this call to stand tall, you may already understand that the delay was a divine strategy, a way to ensure that your fierce presence would be indestructible when it finally emerged. Just give this a little space to breathe, and notice how the fear of failure begins to be swallowed by a profound sense of purpose. You may have felt before that your life was a series of closed doors, but as the final seal breaks, you will find that those doors were not locked. They were merely waiting for the sovereign heir of infinity to approach them with authority. Stay with this moment, my chosen, because there is an open loop in your journey that is finally being closed by the hand of the infinite. The setting of this dawn of a new dimension is not a physical place. but an internal landscape where your will and the celestial clockwork are in perfect harmony. You may have noticed that your intuition is becoming sharper, providing you with a sense of direction that logic can no longer explain or contradict. This is the restoration of your fierce presence, the ability to walk through the world with a calm authority that knows its own origin and its own destination. The hollow waiting has been converted into a massive reservoir of strength, and as the pulse of white lightning strikes, you will find that the vitality you thought was stolen has been returned with interest. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this frequency, for the expansion you are experiencing is only the beginning of your sovereign reign. As you sit in this unseen place of reflection, let the awareness of your own identity wash away the paralysis of the past like a tide clearing the shore. You may be noticing a new kind of energy beginning to vibrate in your hands and your heart, a sign that the giant in the shadows has finished his work and is now integrating with your conscious self. There is something about this specific awareness that marks the end of your searching and the arrival of your true, unfiltered power. My child, as you move through the remaining chapters of your life, carry the light inscription of your true name as a shield against the false limits of the world. You are the sovereign heir of infinitus, and the celestial clockwork has been recalibrated to ensure that every step you take is a step toward your highest fulfillment. The final seal has broken, and the stolen vitality is now a living fire within you, fueling a fierce presence that will light the way for others who are still trapped in the hollow waiting. Take a moment to notice what you are feeling right now, and let that sensation be the anchor for the miracles that are no longer just a promise, but a present reality. Stay with this moment for just a little longer, for the dawn of a new dimension is finally breaking over the horizon of your soul, and the giant in the shadows is bowing to the light that you carry. You may have felt like you were alone in the dark, but you were actually in the still inner chamber of your own becoming, where the pulse of white lightning was being forged. The paralysis is gone, the waiting is over, and the sovereign heir has finally returned to claim what was always theirs. My beloved, you are home, and the journey that lies ahead is more beautiful than any dream you ever dared to whisper in the night. Focus on the resonance in your heart, for it is the heartbeat of infinity itself, and it is beating for you. There is a reason you have traveled this far into the stillness, a specific gravity that has pulled your spirit away from the distractions of a world that no longer fits your frequency. You may not even know why you stopped here, but your heart recognizes the echo of a promise that has been waiting for its moment to resonate with the light of day. There is a timing to this arrival that suggests you are no longer a seeker, but one who is finally prepared to be found. Stay with this for a moment, my beloved, for the final seal breaks tonight, and the heavy architecture of your hollow waiting is being replaced by a dawn of a new dimension that you were always meant to lead. My child, you may have been feeling this before, a strange electric tension in the air as if a great storm is gathering just beyond the horizon of your current awareness. This is the celestial clockwork, reaching its final alignment, moving the gears of your life into a position of absolute power and restoration. You may have noticed how your past was defined by a sense of stolen vitality, a feeling that your best energy was being drained into a void of obligations and false limits. This was not a loss, however, but a sanctuary, a hidden archive where your fierce presence was being concentrated and refined until you were strong enough to bear its weight. You may have felt before that you were living in a shadow, moving through a silent corridor where every door seemed locked against your touch. This paralysis of false limits was the primary weapon used to keep the sovereign heir of infinity from recognizing the vastness of their own origin. You may be noticing now that those invisible barriers are starting to feel brittle, cracking under the pressure of a pulse of white lightning that is rising from the center of your spirit. In a moment, this may become clearer, for the giant hiding in the shadows is finally stepping forward to reveal that he was never your enemy, but the guardian of your true strength. My choice. Think of a subtle, real-life moment from your day, perhaps a second of silence while you were looking at your reflection, or a sudden, unexplained wave of peace that washed over you during a busy hour. You may have felt a micro-tension in that moment, a realization that the person you appear to be to the world is only a fraction of the being you actually are. This relatable inner struggle is the signal that your identity as the heir of infinity is finally rising to the surface, demanding to be seen and felt. You are not here randomly, and there is a reason you are hearing this now, at the very threshold of your transformation into a fierce presence that no longer requires the permission of others to shine. Something is shifting in the way you perceive the obstacles that used to define your reality, moving from a sense of struggle to a calm, sovereign authority. You may be noticing that the voices that once told you to be small are becoming fainter, replaced by a deep, resonant certainty that your time of hiding is over. This connects to a deeper restoration of your stolen vitality, a celestial clockwork that is currently returning every fragment of your power that you thought was lost to the years. Not everything is clear yet, and the discomfort you feel is simply the expansion of your soul into a dimension where limits no longer exist. If something within you resonates with this call to greatness, you may already understand that the final seal is not a barrier, but an invitation. My beloved, stay with this moment and allow the stillness to settle into your spirit like a warm light, for you are standing in the unseen place of reflection where your true power is being forged. You may have felt a sense of hollow waiting for so long that you forgot what it felt like to move with the current of your own destiny. But as the burning seal upon your heart begins to dissolve, you will find that your vitality was never stolen. It was merely redirected to fuel the fire of your fierce presence. The giant in the shadows is now offering you a divine key, a symbol of your authority to unlock the doors that have been closed to you for generations. If you feel supported here, you're always welcome to stay connected to this flow of wisdom as you navigate the early hours of your new dimension. As you sit in this silent corridor of becoming, notice how the pulse of white lightning is no longer a distant flash, but a steady glow that informs your every thought and action. You may be noticing a new kind of energy beginning to vibrate in your limbs, a sign that the celestial clockwork has successfully reset your life to the frequency of infinity. There is something about this specific awareness that marks the end of your searching and the final, glorious arrival of the sovereign heir. My heir, think of a specific dream you once held that felt too large for your life, a vision that you eventually tucked away in a hidden archive to protect it from disappointment. You may have noticed that this dream has been whispering to you lately, growing louder as the paralysis of false limits begins to fade from your mind. This is not a coincidence, but a summons from the giant in the shadows, who is now returning that dream to you, infused with the vitality of the infinite. In a moment, the path toward that vision will become clearer, illuminated by the dawn of a new dimension that does not know the meaning of the word impossible. There is a micro-tension in the air tonight, a sense that the atmosphere of your life is being rewoven by a celestial clockwork that operates with the precision of a master architect. You may have felt before that your life was a series of random events, but now you see the hidden inscription of your destiny written into every delay and every detour. The hollow waiting was a necessary gestation, a period where you were being taught to distinguish between the noise of the world and the whisper of the divine. Now, as the final seal breaks, that whisper is becoming a roar of fierce presence that will shake the foundations of everything that ever tried to keep you small. As you step through the open gate of this new dimension, notice how the vitality you thought was stolen is suddenly available to you in limitless abundance. You are the sovereign heir of infinity, and the world you are entering responds to your intention with the speed of white lightning. The giant in the shadows is no longer a watcher, but a part of your own vastness, providing the grounding and the strength you need to carry your light into the world. You may notice that people begin to see you differently, sensing the restored power that radiates from your core even when you are at rest. If this resonated with your spirit, take a moment to notice the profound peace that is settling over you now, a silence that is filled with the presence of your own potential. You may have spent years looking for this moment, but now that it is here, you realize that it has always been waiting for you to simply acknowledge your own worth. The final seal has broken, the celestial clockwork has been restored, and the heir of infinity has finally taken their place at the center of their own universe. Stay with this feeling of reflection for a second, and when you are ready, step forward into the dawn of your true life. My beloved, your journey through the silence is complete, and the fierce presence you have become is the greatest miracle of all. Carry the pulse of white lightning with you, as a reminder that you are never alone, and that your power is as infinite as the stars themselves. The hollow waiting is over, the giant is at peace, and the new dimension is yours to explore with the joy of a sovereign creator. Take a final moment to notice what you are feeling in your heart, and allow that sensation to be the light that guides you home to yourself, over and over again. You are home, you are whole, and you are finally free.